he may just go for a fast show and tell instead, and that might lead to Zachary winning the game instead of Adam.
Yeah, this could lead to it could backfire in a very, very bad way. So we will see what happens here as game number 1 of round 4 is about to be underway. 9 rounds of legacy action here for you guys. And Jansen, we'll start with a Gataxian probe. I bet that just warms your heart.
Yep. People finally figured it out.
Force of Will, Pact Negation, a Brainstorm, a Preordain, an Ancient Tomb, a City of Traders, and an Island. So Jansen's going to record the contents of the grip, go down to 18 in the process, and not a lot of decks in this format can have this hand.
Even if you are not 100% sure what Zachary is up to specifically, you can be pretty confident he's some sort of combo deck. The Pact of Negation, and to a lesser extent, the Preordain are giveaways here.
And Jansen's going to write it all down. Of course, he will get to draw a card here. He knows he's got to work through some permission now.
So that hand is not very informative in terms of what he really needs to play around, with the exception of that Force of Will. But it is informative insofar as he has a general sense of what he's up against in the matchup. May allow Adam to de-emphasize show and tell a little bit here, since that is not the way you want to go off, ideally, against a deck like Omnitel.
You would prefer sneak attack.
Yeah.
It's an Island, it's a Preordain. The first of many cantrips here for Deffenbaugh.
So Adam playing a full playset of Spell Pierces. Not something you commonly see in Sneak and Show, but should help him a lot in this matchup.
I imagine, yeah. That should be pretty nice. One on top, one on bottom. And we'll draw that one. And that'll be it for Zachary. Jansen will draw. That's what Adam can put together here. That's a second volcanic island. And he'll just pass the turn back. When will the fireworks begin? That's the big question.
Keep in mind, the hand that Adam saw there contained neither an element to put something into play nor something to win the game with. So Adam may be pretty aggressive about going with a show and tell line here in spite of the matchup, because Zachary really showed nothing in his initial hand that would cause danger if he were to go down that road.
And this is an Ancient Tomb. See what Jansen wants to do in his third turn of the game. Maybe a Lotus Petal here? Yes. A little more mana. Always scary when they put the Lotus Petal out. Feels like the turn they're going to go for it, along with a double land. But he's just going to pass the turn back, it looks like. Yeah. Zachary looks like he's going to cast a Brainstorm at the end of turn. See if this resolves.
Remember, Adam's list with 4 copies of Spell Pierces would not be a bad time to land one of them.
Well, tapping a mana right now. Feels like that might be what's happening, yeah. It's a pretty healthy Spell Pierce there. Brainstorm's such a powerful card. I feel like we don't see people countered enough.
For sure. This seems like a very obvious spot here. Opponent with a fetch land in play, a hand that didn't look like it was really going anywhere.
Deffenbaugh will sacrifice the island. Sacrifice the Scalding Tarn to get an island.
One of the big upsides of playing Omnitel is the stability of the mana base. Not a lot of wasteland targets, 2 copies of City of Traders, 1 Ancient Tomb. But in this matchup, the 2 mana lands are incredibly powerful because neither player will punish the other for them.
Omniscience the draw. There's a Scalding Tarn. And back to Jansen we go. See if Jansen wants to maybe try to go for it this turn, assuming he has the necessary pieces to do so. Again, he knows about the Pact Negation and the Force of Will. But he will just draw and pass the turn back over to Deffenbaugh, who draws a copy of Enter the Infinite. It's an Ancient Tomb, his land number 4, and he'll just pass the turn back with the ability to cast Pact and Negation now since he can pay for it.
Yeah. Some protection here. And Adam appears to be in no rush himself to make an action.
Polluted Delta comes down, and back we go. So a bit of just draw, go, and cantrip in, but now it's a show and tell here for Zachary, and now things have gotten very interesting.
This is an interesting element of the matchup is that Zachary's show and tells are often game-winning the turn he plays them, whereas Adams are likely to be on a turn delay unless he gets sneak attack and can win in one turn. So Zachary can be much more aggressive about his copies of show and tell than Adam can.
There's the City of Traders. I wonder if he makes a move here. He's got all the necessary tools to go off. He actually has a backup omniscience as well to remove a Force of Will. Pack negation as protection too. Yeah, you have to give me a pretty good reason not to make a move.
Yeah, his hand's pretty stocked here. Pack of negation plus Force of Will. The ability to pay pretty easily for Spell Pierce and Daze type effects. This seems like a very good spot to go for it.
It's time for fireworks. This is a show and tell.
And Adam has a good idea. Even if Adam gets to play and say Gristlebrand here and draw some cards, that Zachary may just have the tools to play over the top.
Yep.
I mean, 14 is a lot of cards for Adam to look at here, but there's a lot of pressure to find a bunch of Force of Wills in that collection of cards to be able to fight over the fireworks after the fact.
Well, it's going to resolve, and it's rare that a card comes into play that's better than Gristlebrand, but I think we just found one.
Yeah.
Omniscience lets you play your spells without paying their mana costs. So Enter the Infinite might be what's next.
It's a really good deal once it's in play.
It sure is. See if he's going to move in and go for it here. Again, with 2 counterspells as backup, I think the green light is on.
Well, the more relevant question to me is, what is the plan if you are not doing it?
Yeah.
You know, I understand there's some risk. Maybe, you know, Adam finds a bunch of counter spells and you can't win the game this turn and then you probably lose, but it's definitely not getting better than this turn.
Yeah. 1 Gristlebrand activation here from Jansen. Do love the flavor text on Enter the Infinite. Don't just have an idea, have all of them.
Probably a quote regarding Michael Flores.
So Jansen has +7 cards at the cost of 7 life. But again, he does know that Deffenbaugh does have not 1 but 2 counterspells over there in Force of Will and Pact Negation.
He also knows that this results as game over this turn, so
that's how it works.
Doesn't really have a choice other than to find as much action as he possibly can. Try to fight this fight. Adam looked like he was confirming there that he's falling to 4 from this Gristlebrand activation.
So you find the necessary countermeasures because those Spell Pierces, well, those are off now. So it's going to have to be a whole bunch of Force of Wills and blue cards. Though he does have the necessary mana to actually hardcast a Force of Will in this situation. There's a Force of Will removing a show and tell. I imagine we'll see Deffenbaugh fight back as this is the most important spell. Yep, there's a free Force of Will.
This is the game right here. I mean, there is some outside chance that Zachary could lose this fight and maybe win next turn, but more than likely, this is what the game is about.
Yep. This is certainly where we are.
Counter spells in the deck here that matter at this point. 4 copies of Force of Will and a misdirection in Adam's list. The 4 Spell Pierces, I suppose he could draw all 3 of them and make something happen, but more than likely those are not relevant anymore.
Yeah. So that Force of Will will be countered. Enter the Infinite is still on the stack here. Jansen going through a whole swath of cards. Here's Force of Will number 2. Removing a Ponder. Jansen's going to go down to 2. And there's a Pact Negation on that. So now here's the question. Adam Jansen, do you have a 3rd Force of Will?
Or a cantrip to keep digging.
Yep. Brainstorm will work. Pact will resolve. And the Infinite's still out there. All right. It's in. So what happens now?
So what most likely happens now is Zachary can go ahead and Cunning Wish for release the ants. and do that infinite times because he can set an Emrakul on top of his deck and win the clash.
There is a Cunning Wish. A beautiful one at that.
Yep. I believe that is some sort of Judge promo.
Yeah. I love that Cunning Wish. Oh, we're going to go research and develop.
Whoa.
We don't see this one that much. Normally it's just to release the ants, but research development is what he's going to search up with the Cunning Wish. Oh, baby. So what he's going to get to do here is choose up to 4 cards you own from outside the game and shuffle them into your library. So Laboratory Maniac will be the card. That's on top. You'll, of course, have to shuffle the library here. Yeah, and Jansen, I believe, is already starting to pick up his permanents because what's going to happen here is the Laboratory Maniac is going to come into play. He's going to draw a card with no library left, and that's going to do it. Some people do take the Release the Ants kill, but he's going for the Research Development Laboratory Maniac way. There's different ways to get it done. This one occupies a few more slots, but it's a win all the same.
I'm curious as to why you would get away from Release the Ants. Is White Leyline the factor?
That is a way for you to lose. Also, I was going to say if he has an Emrakul on top of his deck, it's a touch awkward, right?
Well, there has to be some way. I feel like once you've drawn your entire deck, there's got to be some way to get out of Emrakuls on the top of my opponent's deck.
Sure, especially when you have access to all those wishes.
Yeah.
That would make sense. I would agree with you.
Well, that was definitely a cooler win than we generally see.
I prefer it that way. It's a good way to start the day.
Yeah, good on Zachary.
Well, let's take a look at the sideboard here. Adam Jansen's is who we will look at first since he's on the play.
A Vandal Blast, 2 red Elemental Blast, a Flusterstorm, a Wipe Away, an Echoing Truth, 2 copies of Through the Breach, a Defense Grid, an Elistorn, 2 Pyroclasms, 2 Blood Moons, and 1 copy of Blue Elemental Blast. I think the 2 red blasts and the Flusterstorm are very easy to bring in here. I don't know if Adam's going to want to go to Through the Breach, although it seems like it makes sense for him to de-emphasize Show and Tell in this matchup to some extent because his Show and Tells are not necessarily lethal, whereas Zachary's are. So I'm curious to see how he'll want to address that factor, but I think the additional cheap counterspells are going to be coming in.
For Deffenbaugh, he's got a sideboard with a lot of wish targets, of course, because he does play 4 copies of Cunning Wish. So there's a Firemind's Foresight, a Research Development, and Laboratory Maniac, which we just saw, a Wipe Away, an Echoing Truth, and an Intuition. One with a Force of Will to wish for, 2 Pact Negation. I imagine he might be sideboarding in here. A Flusterstorm, a Stifle, a Slaughter Pact, a Noxious Revival, and 2 copies of Leyline of Sanctity. The big question here is he boarding in more Counter Magic and Pact Negation or Force of Will, or any of these Silver Bullets?
Well, I don't know if any of these Silver Bullets are necessarily going to be coming in. They have to be cards that Zachary would not mind drawing, but believes he would basically never wish for. So through that prism, I think that really only Stifle theoretically qualifies. It can stop a Crystal Brand activation, it can stop a Sneak Attack activation, maybe catch a stray fetch land, but it's not something that Zachary will likely ever wish for. So if he's going to, I think that's the one card that stands out to me as potentially sideboardable in.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't think he's going to want to do too much here. The Pact of Negation seemed good to me.
Yeah, I'm fine with them. I'm a little surprised by Jansen just not really doing very much that game. It just looks like his hand didn't come together very, very well at all there.
Well, Sneak and Show has to keep a lot of opening hands that are missing a piece because it's just hard to have everything.
Yeah.
So you keep these hands that have no way to cheat something to play or nothing to cheat to play. Sometimes they're missing both and they just have a bunch of cantrips, and you just have to hope to draw out of it with your draw step and various cantrips as soon as possible. And there's some games where that just doesn't come together.
That's what, yeah, as you mentioned, that's what the cantrips are for. You find those, you get the pieces, and you kill them, which we have seen this deck do a lot.
And it's possible that Adam was not willing to try to go off through Show and Tell there because it's fraught with peril.
Yep.
Might have been waiting for Sneak Attack specifically. He did have something to put into play. He had a Gristlebrand at least, so I don't know if he did not have a way to cheat something to play or did have Show and Tell but wasn't really that interested in going down that path.
Well, a lot of these players do shuffle up here for game number 2. We will touch on Autumn States, which is happening here October 11th and the 12th. Pretty exciting stuff as we're able to bring states back to you guys again.
In response to the popularity of spring states, we're going to be doing them in the autumn of this year and also the spring and autumn of 2015 as well. Will be occurring Pro Tour weekend, October 11th and 12th. State championships in all 50 states, plus Puerto Rico, plus Washington, D.C. StarCityGames.com/states for more information. There will be points and prizes and a medal there for the winner.
First place gets a medal. You can be like Chris Van Meter, and you can even shave like him too.
Or like you.
I didn't get a medal for winning.
But you have a medal from your wrestling background.
Well, I don't want to say I own medals because that implies that I bought them. I have medals.
Right. You received medals as a reward for success in tournaments.
Yes, I earned them.
You earned them.
It felt great. You guys can earn one too. October 11th and the 12th, Autumn States, StarCityGames.com/states for more information. As we do turn our attention back to this match, both players going to draw up their opening hands here. Again, Adam Jansen will be on the play. And Zachary Deffenbaugh, well, he entered the infinite.
Yes.
And if you do that, chances are you're going to win.
Emrakul is really nice, but it is also finite.
that's
Zachary, on the other
true.
hand, infinite. Big difference.
Jansen going to quickly send it back. Looks like Deffenbaugh is happy with his opener. Season 4 finally underway here on the Open Series. We started off again last weekend at our Season 3 Invitational. The Standard Open won by Chris Van Meter, playing Jund Monsters with Goblin Rabble Master over Courser of Crewfix, finally able to shave that beard. In the Legacy Open, Dan Musser, he kept us up late, but he got the job done.
And another successful tournament for Miracles. I feel like since Grand Prix Paris, that has been, I don't know, it's necessarily been the deck of Legacy because there's so many Delver derivatives and so forth that are probably more popular in tournaments. But for best performing deck, we don't have formal metrics for that, but it wouldn't surprise me if on the Open Series in the last year, it's been the best performing deck.
It feels like it is.
Yeah.
It really does. Jansen going to keep his 6. Volcanic Island just pass the turn back over to Deffenbaugh. Zachary will draw a card. It's a Cunning Wish. Scalding Tarn work, he will begin. See if he's got any way to cantrip here. Looks like he does there with a Preordain. And he's going to sacrifice the Tarn, go search up an island.
And
Go to
appears
19 in the process.
It appears that Zachary is on one land right now, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a Preordain here, just digging for land number 2.
And hoping that it doesn't get hit by Spell Pierce. Again, Jansen with 4 of those in his list.
Very unconventional. Also 2 copies of Simeon's Spirit Guide, which is a card that I don't know if it belongs in this list, but I never quite understood the logic of we're positive we want 4 copies of Lotus Petal, and we're positive we want 0 copies of Simeon's Spirit Guide because they're so frequently the same card.
Yeah.
Also, a backup sneak attack / show and tell target in case Emrakul and Gristlebrand fail you.
There it is. Got to give him the beatdowns a different way.
Listen, you don't always have your best draw.
Trust me, I'm listening. Here comes the card. See if you can find that second land. Not just yet. Omniscience is anything but a second land.
Oh, it implies some sort of plan.
Here's the mana for Jansen. Is it time to cantrip? Looks like it is. It's a Brainstorm. Good to go. So 3 cards coming, and of course 2 going back.
I'm a player that, if you've been paying attention to the Open Series of the last year, you will know. A lot of people maybe not necessarily familiar, but a lot of success back in the day.
Yes. Gonna sacrifice the Flooded Strand, make it a perfect Brainstorm as he goes down to 19 in the process. We'll see what land he wants to search up. Volcanic will be the choice. As again, he's playing against a deck that does not have Wasteland.
Anyone who's very close friends with Adrian Sullivan probably won a lot of tournaments in the late 90s. There's usually a good correlation between those 2 things.
See if there's more cantripping to be done here for Jansen. Nope, just kick it over. Deffenbaugh will draw. Not a land again. This Preordain's gonna be pretty important now.
Appears to have been another 12 mana spell, so hopefully he can find land number 2.
Our favorite. That's good. 1 and 2. They're going to the bottom very quickly. Draw Mystery. It's a Cataxian Probe. Redraws.
Yep, keep going.
Take a little look-ski-poo. See what Jansen has here. It's a Flooded Strand, a Force of Will, a Spell Pierce, a Red Elemental Blast, and a Gristlebrand.
A hand with a lot of resistance, but again, no way to get Gristlebrand into play. And no cantrips in hand either, so very much living off the top, but he has a lot of tools to defend himself in the meantime.
I feel like it might be another game of draw go here.
Well, for Zachary, it might be a game of draw and discard.
That's true. But at least he's got info. He knows what he's got to worry about. See what he draws. It was not a land. Now, his hand is pretty interesting, the texture of it. 2 copies of Force of Will. All blue cards, obviously.
Yeah.
And he's got to discard here. And there goes an Omniscience because he has a backup copy. So we're going to send it back Jansen's way. And for Jansen, again, show and tell, not much of an option. Sneak attack is, though. the flooded strand. He'll just pass the turn back. Can Deffenbaugh draw a second land? Ponder is not bad.
But now with him missing land drops, that spell piercing Adam's hand, he might have been waiting to save it for some fireworks. He might start aggressively fighting over things like Ponder, like Preordain, to try to deny Zachary that second land.
Yeah, spell pierce is going to happen on that Ponder very, very quickly. You're like leading with Ponder or Brainstorm there. When you know your opponent has a spell pierce.
I feel like I'd rather lead with the Ponder.
Okay. It feels like it's almost a guarantee whatever you cast is going to get countered.
I don't know if that's necessarily true of the Brainstorm.
Okay.
It's 100% of the Ponder.
Yeah, I think the Ponder's getting countered a ridiculously large percentage of the time. There's an Ancient Tomb.
It seems like there's a higher risk of Brainstorm. Adam crosses his fingers and says, all right, go for it. And if you don't find a land in the top 3, then you're locked for forever, and then I can fight over the Ponder down the line.
Well, this is a Brainstorm now, so we'll see if he lets this resolve. Enforceable and Red Elemental Blast and along with Gristlebrand. He can hardcast a Forcible right now. The question is, will he?
As dire as this looks, as long as Adam's got nothing going on, Zachary has a lot of defense here, and he finds one land. He might be able to start chaining together quite a few spells.
Certainly puts Jansen to the test on what he's supposed to do here. He's going to sacrifice Flooded Strand to start. Down to 18 he goes. I imagine this will be a hardcast Force of Will.
Seems like a fine time to cash it in if he's going to go down that road. Because the Red Elemental Blast is as good as Force of Will in this matchup.
Yep.
So hold on to your 1-mana spell and cash it into your 5 while you got nothing else going on the turn.
Significantly cheaper, too. Yeah, there's the Force of Will. I had a feeling. That takes care of the Brainstorm.
It's a very aggressive use of Force of Will in this spot. Zachary could hypothetically just keep playing draw go. He doesn't have to discard down to hand size this turn, because if the Brainstorm gets countered, he's back down to 7 cards.
I do wonder if Jansen's going to fight back. Does he want to cash in his Red Blast over this fight?
Seems really tough. If Adam was setting himself up to win the game next turn, then I think it might be worth the fight. But given that he's got really nothing going on.
Oh, boy.
This is the concern that I have over fighting over the Brainstorm here, is there's too high of a fail rate, and you aren't even discarding to hand size this turn because the Brainstorm's getting countered.
Yeah, as you said, there's no guarantee you're going to hit a land there,
yeah,
let alone a fetch land. There's also a chance that you hit cards you don't even really want to hit as far as lands are concerned, like Ancient Tomb and City of Traders.
Yeah.
Those aren't great hits. They are lands. Of course, you can't put them into play, but, they're not home runs.
I guess Zachary's logic here is he's so close to having to discard to hand size anyway that he might as well pick this fight over this Brainstorm, because if he finds the second land, there's a lot of upside, but the risk there is exactly what happened. There's no land in the top 3. He's locked for several turns. He's down a Force of Will, which is significant if Adam ever decides to initiate a fight.
Let's see what happens here. It's time for him to discard. It looks like he's going to discard Pact Negation. Yep, he's actually going to go Flusterstorm, which is pretty poor at this point in the game, so that does make sense.
Adam with no shortage of mana at this point.
The texture of his hand. We know there's a Red Elemental Blast and a Gristlebrand there. We don't know the rest of the contents, however. Gonna fire off a Brainstorm. That's gonna be good to go. So, 3 cards coming, and as we know, 2 cards coming back. Very quickly resolves this Brainstorm. Don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it did not take much time at all.
Still dangerous in some respects for Adam to initiate much of anything, because if he loses the fight, it doesn't take much for him to get killed on the way back here. Now, Zachary's missing land drops, of course, but do not let that trick you. He can win the game from a pretty low base.
And then the infinite was the draw. We're a little ways away from that. just a smidge. So now Deffenbaugh has to figure out what to discard again. It'll be the end of the infinite. He'll pass the turn back over to Jansen, who's going to draw a card. He'll pass the turn back. Can Deffenbaugh draw land number 2? Hello!
All right. Still nothing to do.
Yeah.
It's okay, though.
It's a start.
It's a starting
It's
point.
a start.
Rome was not built in a day.
That's, you're right about that. Into the infinite. Back to reality.
All right, back to discarding.
Yeah. There we are. Might just be time to discard another Into the Infinite, honestly. Wouldn't surprise me too much. Oh, yes.
Oh.
Daddy's home.
Oh.
Land number 3. I think we're going to have some sort of ridiculous war over show and tell right now. I think that he can wait, but I don't know. We'll see.
It wouldn't surprise me if he passed and tried to initiate a fight over Cutting Wish at the end of Adam's turn.
Wouldn't surprise me too much either.
Because if you can sort of break up your mana over the course of 2 turns, that's a lot more efficient than trying to do it all at once. So if you get anything out of Adam's hand, even a Spell Pierce for this Cutting Wish, that's a huge success when you enter your next turn and try to win the game. And if Adam doesn't fight over your Cutting Wish, there's probably something in your sideboard that's productive to go get here.
Polluted Delta. Lotus Petal. He just passes the turn back yet again. He will sacrifice it in turn. I could see the Wish breaking the parity. I could see it.
Just get anything out of Adam's hand. Anything. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
Any sort of counterspell is good enough.
Because if Wish resolves, you can wish for a counterspell, assuming there are some left over there.
Right.
I will
There's a
wish
Force of Will or a Pact of Negation in your
yeah.
sideboard. Absolutely. And you had to imagine Zachary has the tools to go off with a ton of counterspell backup
Yep.
at this point. Whether that's enough to beat Adam's hand remains to be seen. We haven't gotten a good look at it, and Adam's been saying draw go for a while, so there might be a lot of resistance, but we'll find out momentarily.
Zachary has discarded quite a few cards here.
Yeah.
So he might be a little unsure of what he wants to do.
It seems like a big waste to just untap and move into your turn.
Yeah.
It feels like if you can cast anything with any sort of value here, you have to do it.
Just going to draw, though. See what he finds. Emrakul.
Also pretty far away from casting that.
Well, Emrakul costs 2 and a blue. So here we go. It's showtime, folks.
There's quite a few counters in Zachary's hand here, but he's going to have to fight with Pact of Negation, which means that if he loses this battle and goes in the next turn, he's going to lose the game.
Yes.
He will not have enough mana to pay for his Pact. Adam's hand contains at least 2 copies of Force of Will. We just got a gander of it.
We know there's a red blast there, too.
Yeah. Feels like it will be challenging for Zachary to win this fight.
Well, let the fight begin, right? One thing we know for sure, you can't let this resolve. Four, not yet. A little unsure. And 5. Here's a hard cast Force of Will. Again, if this show and tell does resolve, Deffenbaugh should win the game.
Yeah.
Have to get a little bit creative depending on what happens with the Pact negations, because there's a world where Pact negation does resolve and then his plan is to cast an Emrakul. He untaps, he has to pay for the Pact, and he can't do that.
Right.
So
he has to go off through Enter the Infinite and win this turn if he uses his Pact of Negations at all in the sequence, and he most likely has to, because you know, we know Adam has another copy of Forcible in his hand, a Red Blast, on top of potentially other cards as well.
Yeah.
He's not going to have much of a choice. He can also just say, all right, that resolves, concede this fight, and try to build up a hand that can go off somewhere down the line.
Now that there are 2 Cunning Wishes in his hand, yeah, I think you battle. I think you fight for your right to cast infinite spells. So the pack resolves.
Yeah, Adam wisely allowing the pack to resolve because he wants that trigger to lock up this game.
A Red Blast. Packed it. And Deffenbaugh does have a Force of Will and plenty of blue cards in his hand. So that resolves. Now 2 pack triggers. Jansen.
Okay.
Force? No. All right. Face up. Gristlebrand versus. Omniscience comes to the party again. And Deffenbaugh has 2 copies of Cunning Wish and Emrakul in his hand. Force of Will 2.
Well, Emrakul's no good here because he loses to the pack trigger.
Correct. Cunning Wish is quite good here, though.
Yep.
Cards he can Cunning Wish for here include Wipe Away. And here's a response. Going to activate Gristlebrand. Can also get himself an Intuition. Firemind's Foresight 2.
This feels like another game winner if he's able to get this to resolve.
Now, one thing I don't like here is that because he has 2 copies of Cunning Wish in his hand, he can actually respond to the Gristlebrand activation by casting Cunning Wish.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the pay 7 has already resolved, but the draw 7 has not.
And Adam doesn't have another 7 life points to go over the top and activate again.
I think letting that Gristlebrand activation resolve is very dangerous. Now, to Deffenbaugh's credit, he does have the backup wish as well as a Force of Will to cast. The Emrakul in his hand, well, that's borderline useless. Jansen going to go down to 6 now. And this is the big problem. Spell Pierce is turned on now. Here's a Force of Will on Spell Pierce. You can see the red Elemental Blast in Jansen's hand. Okay, there's the Red Blast on the Wish.
Are you confident the last card in his hand was a Cunning Wish?
I was fairly confident the last card in his hand was a Cunning Wish.
Seems like that's impossible based on the concession.
Sure, yeah, he did concede very quickly. So maybe he didn't get a great look at the card because the Red Blast ends up winning the game. So Adam Jansen, by not doing much of anything, wins game number 2, and we're going to head to 3rd game now.
Just defended himself long enough to allow Zachary to kill himself with a couple copies of Patent Negation.
Well, while we do wait here for game number 3, we'll talk about the 2015 states and regionals that we do have coming up here. Pretty exciting stuff.
Well, we have regionals coming up here in the winter and summer. They will also be occurring Pro Tour weekend. The first one, winter, February 7th and 8th of 2015. We've had such a good reception to the states program that we want to expand it, make sure that we have one every single quarter. So you see that we have spring states already slated for spring of 2015, April 11th and 12th. Again, these are going to be occurring all Pro Tour weekends. We're not going to be having any opens those weekends as well. So not qualified for the Pro Tour, this is an excellent opportunity to participate in some more high-level OP. Prizes, medals, open series points, the whole 9. So SCG regionals, hashtag, and hashtag SCG states. Those will be the social media hashtags, and you can go to StarCityGames.com for more information.
More information about the StarCityGames.com regional championships will be released at Grand Prix Orlando. Still hashing out all the details for that, but the dates are confirmed. Again, winter, February 7th and the 8th, summer, August 1st and the 2nd. And as we said, during our autumn announcement for this year, States in the spring was such a success that we're able to bring you not only Autumn States this year, but Spring and Autumn States for 2015. Again, all taking place on Pro Tour weekends. So if you're not qualified for the Pro Tour, definitely come and hang out, play in your state championships, or play in your regional championships and plant your flag there. Spring, autumn, winter, summer, all in 2015.
Yep. A lot of stuff going on.
Oh, darn, not more Magic. I hate more Magic. Ugh. I'm kidding, of course.
Yes.
I love Magic, Patrick. Stop giving me that look.
I can give you any look.
Magic is the best.
I could detect your sarcasm.
That's good.
Yeah.
That is a delight. See if Jansen can actually, get a sneak attack or something. He didn't do much of anything game 1, and in game 2, he just didn't die.
Right.
That's it. He hasn't been, very proactive or done much of anything. I suppose the don't die approach is a good one.
Well, he hasn't had a hand capable of doing anything thus far. I mean, it has not looked like he's ever had a way to cheat one of his large creatures into play. So he's just been on his heels waiting for help. Game 1, Zachary overpowered him, and game 2, he didn't have enough firepower to go off through Adam's resistance.
Adam doesn't look too thrilled with this hand. Only 15 minutes here. He's going to take a mulligan.
Yeah. Decides against. Had to mulligan pretty aggressively in this matchup because you can just die so fast.
Yeah, and when you do have a card like Red Elemental Blast in your deck, mulliganing does seem like a pretty good deal. I mean, it's a 1-mana hard counter in the matchup.
He definitely picks that up on top of Flusterstorm, which is pretty close to the same thing.
Yeah. It wouldn't be too difficult for me personally to aggressively mulligan. And plus, you're in a combo matchup. If you keep a, kind of a sketcher, you get punished pretty fast.
Yep. It's not a card advantage style of matchup here.
No. You keep a stinker, you're gonna get crushed for it, basically. So don't do that. Mulligan aggressively and try to find a better hand.
Especially with both players having Gataxian Probe in their list too. If you have a soft opening, it's going to be revealed pretty quickly.
Yeah. See what he can find. Again, first 2 games have taken a little bit of time. These players will have to speed up a touch if they don't want to draw. So here's a preordain.
And Zachary here with another one-lander.
It doesn't look like the best hand, but he's keeping one on top this go-around. That's a welcome change. There's a Scalding Tarn. We'll pass the turn back.
I think the first time around he kept his Omniscience without the second land because he beat the Omniscience to eventually win the game.
The combo piece.
Yeah.
Deffenbaugh will draw. It's got to be a show and tell. We could see fireworks early here.
Yep.
See what Jansen has. It's a brainstorm. An early brainstorm at that. Maybe a weak hand here for Adam.
Most likely. Probably already a fetch land at the ready as well. Or it's just a one-lander.
Familiar territory for these players, one-landers in this matchup.
None of these decks play a lot of lands. Adams especially, he has 4 Lotus Petals and 2 Simeon Spirit Guides.
I like the Spirit Guides in his deck. I really do.
He had 19 lands in his list. 19 lands in both lists, it appears.
And there's the fetch land. Kick it back. Deffenbaugh's going to draw. It's a Cunning Wish. That's not the 3rd land, so all he can do is pass the turn back. You can see his hand. He's got 2 Force of Wills. He's got all the action. He just needs the mana. Jansen going to sacrifice the Footer Strand. He's down to 19.
Adams got to be thrilled with the start of this game.
Nothing too crazy happening yet.
Yeah, and the fact that he has 4 Spell Pierces in his main deck and the Flusterstorm means that he really punished his Mana Light hands in this matchup. There's a lot of players where they only really have the Force of Wills. Maybe they have a couple Spell Pierces. Very rare to see the full play set, but given Zachary's opening hands here, they are going to be brutal if he has them.
Jansen will draw.
That's what we were talking about at the beginning of the broadcast here. Legacy played a lot in the hands, especially in these combo matchups where it's just set up, and then
Kablooey.
we move.
Yeah. I know there were no islands in the top 8 of our standard open. Well, if you like islands, again, you've come to the right place.
Yeah. Just ask Jeff.
Yeah, that's true. Hoogland opting to play in the Modern Premier IQ instead of playing the Legacy Open to try to grind out his Open Series points to qualify for the Players' Championship. Tired of playing against Brainstorm and friends in Legacy. Second Volcanic Island here for Jansen. So not a perfect Brainstorm. Deffenbaugh going to draw another copy of Cunning Wish. Again, 19 lands in his deck. This can certainly happen. It happened last game. It's happening again now.
And man has the ability to aggressively fight over cantrips in part because of the 4 spell pierces. So if Zachary's planning on using these cantrips to get to his initial land drops, that does not work necessarily.
An Ancient Tomb for Jansen. Just going to pass the turn back yet again. An Island. Deffenbaugh just going to pass the turn back very quickly. A blue mana here for Jansen. It's Brainstorm yet again. So draw 3, put back 2. No fetch line the last time. We'll see if he has one this time.
He's reordering the top 2, probably not.
Noticeable reorder there. Yep. Islands, he will pass. Deffenbaugh will sacrifice this Scalding Tarn, and maybe this time we will see an end-of-turn Cunning Wish.
Yeah, Adam's in no rush. While the game's being played at this pace, he can just simply slowly improve his hand.
Sculpt, get ready for the big fight, try to win it. The way he won it last time is by letting pack negations resolve. Deffenbaugh with a Cunning Wish. Will Jansen try to counter it? He's reaching for an island. This feels like a Spell Pierce, and it is. So no Cunning Wish for you.
But even that's a bit of a win for Zachary, since Spell Pierce at this juncture is the same thing as Counterspell.
It's not the real card.
Yeah. So if he can sort of wear down Adam's defenses without exposing himself to danger by initiating things on Adam's turn, that's going to be a big help.
Show and Tell was the draw, so it makes it easier to cast one now. And there is a Spell Pierce, and that's a beating. Quickly passes the turn back over to Jansen.
And Zachary with another Show and Tell in hand, so he can just say, okay, that's fine.
I won't fight over this one. I'll try to fight over the next one.
And for Adam, got to be feeling pretty good about the types of cards you got with these Spell Pierces.
Yeah, Spell Pierces look great. 2 mana. 3, 4.
This might be a sneak attack.
Yeah. If you're Deffenbaugh, you have to fight over this.
This is so much worse for him than Show and Tell.
Yes.
Modern players, your appearance for round 4 are being
Cannot let this resolve. Could lose all of his lands.
Modern players, your appearance for round 4.
Force of Will, removing pack negation.
It's so good for Adam to be initiating these fights on his own turn, too, because it turns pack negation off.
There's Spell Pierce again. And I think you have to continue to fight here.
Yeah, you can't stop.
And as you mentioned, these are great exchanges for Jansen, not for Deffenbaugh. Yep. Force Will removing Cunning Wish. Does Jansen have another counter spell? Red Blast, another Spell Pierce, Force of Will, who knows? Has a couple of cards in his hand he's going between.
Well, one presumes at least one of them is a large creature.
Yep.
Legacy Open players, and it's time for the round.
City of Traders.
Active player finishing turn.
Well, if you're Deffenbaugh, you've got a pretty good idea of what's in his hand.
Yep.
A time extension.
Probably a creature and not a counterspell.
Well, now we can make sure.
Let's become certain.
Brainstorm Gristlebrand. For Zachary, his hand right now is Show and Tell and Omniscience. Let's see what he draws. Force of Will. I don't think, you can't cast Show and Tell now. You need to be able to go off in one turn.
Yeah.
It's too important.
And one assumes with additional resistance, now that you know that Gristlebrand is the card in Adam's hand, if it's Emrakul, you can be pretty aggressive about how you go off.
Yep.
Adam gets so many looks at a theoretical counterspell, red elemental blast of some sort.
Just Brainstorm? Yep, Brainstorm number 4. 1 and 2 and 3. So Brainstorm is done resolving. 2 cards, of course, do go back. You have to imagine he kept Gristlebrand in the hand, not sure the rest. He's reaching for manas. Looks like he's going to take a little punch off of the Ancient Tomb. That's a rather sneaky attack.
He's got a mana floating. Again, necessitates a response.
Yep. Force row moving Omniscience. Got to counter it. Is there a counter spell here, maybe? Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Oh, is right.
Oh, boy. There's a red blast.
Found a red blast.
Yep. He's grinded away all of his resources here. He's left with a Gristlebrand in hand. He can't put it into play this turn, but he can on the next one. Deffenbaugh draws a card. It's a Scalding Tarn. Show and Tell is the last card. Nothing to put in play, though. So now for Jansen, he can activate the sneak attack, put the Gristlebrand in play, and if he can find Emrakul along with it, it's lights out.
Even if he doesn't, you know,
Still probably good enough.
it's hard for him to miss enough for Zachary to come back from this.
So 7 cards coming. Jansen's going to go down to 8. 8 is an important number because that means he can activate Gristlebrand again if he'd like. There's a quick activation. That's an attack for 22, and that is going to do it. Adam Jansen's going to win this match over Zachary Deffenbaugh 2-1. Sneak and Show downs Omni-Tell just in the nick of time.
It felt like the Spell Pierces and the Red Blast that Adam had access to were the difference in that matchup. Both players had to be very careful about going off